My house, my rules. That is what South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said to US President Donald Trump in their ongoing palace intrigue related to the G20 Leaders Summit, which will start on Sunday. So, US President Donald Trump previously announced that he was boycotting the summit in South Africa, and then he came back and said he wants to attend, not him, his government. And then he came back and said, never mind. But now he's trying to make another demand, and the president of South Africa shut him down again. In the last 48 hours, the president of South Africa has been up by 2 points by my count. I know this is supposed to be a serious diplomatic issue, but the high school nature of this ongoing dispute is so funny to me. I started keeping scores to entertain myself. My name is Enebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. On this channel, I talk about geopolitics from the perspective of an African. If that's something you are into, subscribe to this channel. So let me start this way. So the G20 is a voluntary organization. So everything that happened is supposed to be based on consensus or individual willingness to do it. And so in 2021, G20 announced their presidency calendar. What that means is that which country will hold the presidency of the G20 in each given year. So the G20 presidency will start on December 1st of a year and end on November 30th of the following year. And whoever holds the presidency will set the agenda for that year and then will host the G20 summit as well as all the meetings related to G20 for that given year, right? And South Africa has been holding the G20 presidency since December 1st, 2024, and their presidency is scheduled to expire on November 30th, 2025 this year, like in a few days. And when it does, the US will take over. So the calendar has already been fixed. The rotation has already been fixed, right? So the US was scheduled to take over even before Trump came to power. But when Trump came to power, his issues he's had with South Africa made it difficult for South Africa to work with the Trump administration. Earlier this year, the Foreign Ministers Summit in South Africa, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State in the US, did not attend, citing that he didn't agree with South Africa's agenda of climate change and DEI, right? Cool. And so now another point. When it was time for President Trump to attend, he already said he was not going to attend, citing white genocide in South Africa. They gave two different reasons for why they are not going to attend, but we forget about that. And so the last few days, it looks like the US tried to send a delegation to attend because the South African president, Ramaphosa, made it clear that its presidency in the G20 is not going to be ineffective and ineffectual just because the US is acting out. South Africa was determined to go ahead and do what they are supposed to do, even though the US refused to participate. The US thought that if it said it wasn't going to attend, South Africa will come and apologize and, do things their way. And South Africa said, you know what, we are going to do things our way. We don't care what the US does or says, right? And so the US now was trying to find a way to come back to the negotiation table. And the president of South Africa told the president of the US that, well, you can come, but you can't have any meaningful impact on the table because negotiations have already been started. So usually, even though the G20 summit will happen on Sunday and Monday, whatever will be discussed in those 2 days have already been negotiated. Things have already been far advanced. So, US can't have any meaningful impact, right? And so the US said, okay, you know what? No problem. we are now going to send a delegation to attend the handing over ceremony. So at the end of each leaders summit for the G20, the president of the country that holds the presidency, in this case South Africa, will hand over a ceremonial gavel to the president of the country taking over. So President Ramaphosa of South Africa was supposed to hand over the gavel to President Trump of the US. And since the US is not attending, under the G20 rules, the foreign minister, in this case Marco Rubio, is supposed to attend on behalf of Trump. He's also not attending. But the US is sending their third in command in the US embassy in South Africa to attend on behalf of President Trump. And Ramaphosa said, well, when I became the president of G20, the president of Brazil handed over the gavel to me. When Brazil was becoming the president of India handed over to Brazil. When India was taking over the presidency, the president of Indonesia or head of state of Indonesia handed over to India. So I am not going to hand over to a junior government official of the US. So officially, the handing over ceremony of the G20 is not going to happen. The US will still hold the presidency from December 1st because that rotation schedule is already in place. The handing over ceremony is just a beautiful ceremony that, is supposed to foster unity. Since the US doesn't want to be united with the rest of the world, they can go on and do their America first in their country. Basically, that is what Ramaphosa is saying to Trump. And that is interesting because I respect that Ramaphosa understands his power. It is likely that next year, the US will try to play games with their presidency. The US will probably not allow South Africa to attend the summit, which is against international rules. And also, President Trump would try to, suppress South Africa's expression at the G20. But that is all in the future. For now, the power is in the hands of South Africa. And I like that Ramaphosa understands that he's holding the power in this instance. And so he's going to take advantage of the power he has to set the agenda and not let Trump distract him from his agenda. I respect that. I like when African leaders stand up for themselves. There's a long history of African leaders standing up to global powers because sometimes global powers like to act like Africans do not have any agency. We are supposed to be at the beck and call. I did a whole video I'll put at the end of this video where I explained that Ramaphosa made US President Trump understand that that's not how these things work. We also have our say. So you get what you want or you do what you want, cool. We also get to do what we want in that instance, right? And funny as it looks, it is a statement of where Africans see ourselves today. The days of Africans just accepting anything the world throws at us is over. Africa has something to say. And Africa has the microphone now. South Africa has the gavel now. South Africa will use its gavel. I am proud of Ramaphosa in the way he's handled President Trump this year. And I don't know what will happen the next year. Hopefully, he will stay focused and consistent. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel. I will stay focused on paying attention to what is happening with the G20. If something interesting comes up, I'll let you know.